Welcome to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower, where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Now, here's your host, 5-time Voice Arts Awards nominee, David Brower.
Thanks, Alan. This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast. Our special guest today is Bashea Williams from Montgomery, Maryland. He's described as an intellectual emotionalist, someone who understands what a man thinks and how a woman feels. He's an entrepreneur, author of the book Dear Future Wife, A Man's Guide and a Woman's Reference in Healthy Relationship. He owns and operates his own private practice at Hearts and Mind Counseling, where he works with vulnerable youth and specializes in marriage and family, couples, individual counseling, and a lot more. Bashea Williams, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks so much. So when were you labeled appropriately as an intellectual emotionalist? How did that come about?
I actually was having a conversation with a couple of people, and it was specialized in what a man thinks. We're talking about logic. Mm-hmm. The man is more logical. The women are more emotional, right?
Right.
So, but being able to just connect the two and having conversations with multiple people where I'm saying that, hey, this is how they feel, this is how they're thinking, then let's not ignore our logic side in order to be more emotional, and let's not ignore our emotional side in order to be more logical. So couples come to me and with, of course, two different issues, with two different ways of trying to get to the same solution.
Sure.
But a lot of times couples are saying the same thing just differently. They're expressing it in a way that their partner can't hear them or their partner can't feel them. So I just came up with an intellectual emotionalist. So let's be able to bridge the two so we both communicate on a healthy level.
That makes all the sense in the world because, I mean, obviously, well, maybe not obviously to a lot of people, but it seems obvious to some that, I mean, we all process things different, you know. Men listen differently, we process differently, women listen differently, process differently, and having that ability, that skill set, that gift that you have to be able to bridge the two, to get a couple to really communicate and understand each other, that's quite a gift, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of hard work, a lot of studying, a lot of understanding human behavior, human thoughts.
It's got to be, yeah. So how do you do your homework, for lack of a better term?
A lot of research. I do a lot of reading myself. I've done a lot of internal work.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a lot of just communicating with both sides. I've always been that person to go to, even before I got into the field. I can go as early as back as elementary, with just, growing up with a sister who had all female friends.
Sure.
And my cousin, who was a female, with all her friends, and I was the only boy in the house. And so just constantly, you hear my parents say, well, you can't do that because that's what girls do. But I'm just like, well, I want to do some of that stuff as well. So I kind of got a sense of how a woman might react to certain things, or a female might react to certain things, just based on the information that was given to me from my parents, or
That's
how
awesome.
my siblings express themselves. So, after that, it was just a constant thing. It was like girls was like, "Oh, you get it, you understand," and I was always like the best friend who couldn't get the girlfriend.
Right.
The best friend.
I feel your pain, brother. I was that guy.
Yeah. So everybody brought the issue to me, but I couldn't get a date. So
right.
Let me just tell you what my boyfriend did. Oh, you're so understanding. Well,
my parents, single child, mostly raised by my mom because my dad was gone all the time, and so I was raised by my mom and her 5 sisters, right?
Oh, okay.
So I totally get what you're talking about, and yeah, through high school in particular, it was like, well, and ever since, all my best friends have been women, and so yeah, I get where you're coming from. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and just even in the field that I'm in, I mean, a majority of the classroom looks like one man to 20 women.
Right.
When you get into the work field, it's one man to like 30 women, like in the office. So it's just constantly being around both sides and just getting a better understanding of people in general.
So do you work in the business area? I mean, do you counsel businesses? Do you do individuals? All the above? How does your process work?
Yeah, all of the above. I have my own private practice where I have an office here in Germantown, Maryland. But I also go into schools and I work with the vulnerable youth.
Nice.
So I do groups in there, and then I do, like recently I did a workshop with, it was all women, and they were just talking about dating and relationship when it comes to finances, being a breadwinner in the relationship. So it really just depends on what the need is.
Yeah.
I have gone into businesses and kind of did a group thing, a workshop to get people to prepare for their mental health, emotional wealth, and just all those good things that we need in addition to, just our day-to-day hustle working.
Absolutely. And that the day-to-day hustle is, I would think, one of the biggest interrupters. We're going 100 miles an hour. We're looking for immediate gratification. Yeah, I hear you. Oh, I really don't. And
right. Yeah. That's it.
Oh, man.
That's it.
I know when my wife and I first got together, we'd done a lot of work on ourselves, fortunately, and we were in a really, really great place when we got together. And one of the first things we agreed upon was not stuffing anything as best as we knew how on any given day, because we had both been pretty darn good at that. And so we've done well with that. And then the other thing that I stumbled upon was when my wife, because we do totally, like you're saying, process things differently, hear things differently. So when she says something, and it could be interpreted as she's getting in my face, what's she really talking about, that kind of stuff. I just stop, catch my breath, and I go, okay, so what's her intention? It's not how she says it. It's not what she says. It's what's the intention behind that. And so we let that go a bit. Then we can have a really great conversation about it.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's really hearing them in addition to paying attention to the cues that's happening around, but saying that, okay, I see that you're upset. I see you're saying it this way, but what are you really conveying? What is the message?
Yeah.
And how can I receive it in a way that I'm not defensive, and I can really just understand? Let's problem solve, or even if the problem can't be solved, let's just connect and just understand each other.
Yeah. One of the things that we went to a premarital class through our church, and the one thing that has always stuck with me, and I think it's the only thing really, that always stuck with me was when you're having a conversation, you never use the word you, because oftentimes that can come out accusatory. Right? And so you figure out different ways to communicate to where the perception is, oh, he or she really wants to talk. They're not really accusing me of, the language is really important, right?
Yes, certainly. And I tell that to couples all the time. So when you go into having a disagreement or an argument or however you want to frame it, you want to communicate that this is what I need from you at this moment. Not saying you're doing this to me. Yeah. You are doing that. It's more about, hey, I need to feel this. I need to hear this at this moment. Like this, when this happens again, can we do this differently? Yeah. And that way, it also gives the person that you're talking to an opportunity to, take off the defenses and say, okay, what can I do to improve? And also ask you the same thing. This is what I need when we get into this situation.
Absolutely. In fact, we ran into this maybe a week and a half ago, and we never, quote unquote, argue, really get in each other's face, yell and scream and all that kind of stuff. But we do have communication issues periodically because of the way we listen to each other or don't, because of the way we process things or don't. And so I was really having a struggle with this one thing, as my wife was. And she says, why don't we just change the way we say it? And so all she did was rephrase one sentence that was bugging the crap out of me for 24 hours. And I'm going, yeah, that's it. I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Wow. So it's really complicated, but if you're lucky, some days it's not. And that's where you come in to help people get it. Right.
Yeah. And, I sit with couples and like I said, oftentimes they're saying the same thing differently. They're saying the same thing differently. And then they give me, the opportunity to come in and just listen and just say, hey, is this what you're really communicating?
Nice. So do you oftentimes, when you're counseling couples, counsel them individually, collectively? Is it different for each couple?
Yeah, it's different for each couple, but I try to keep it collective. I don't want because there's no secrets in couples therapy.
Exactly, yeah.
So for the majority of the time, it's both of them in the session. There may be a time where I say, hey, let me meet with you because you might want to work on this when you're dealing with something, or or I might just refer out and say, hey, you might need individual therapy.
Oh, there you go. Sure.
So, there's not a side. It's like, oh, well, you listen to him this time, you listen to her that time. So I don't know if you're going to use that information in the next session or can I tell you something and promise me not to tell my partner? And just, we can't do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
I'm interested in how you work with vulnerable youth. First of all, how do you
mm.
define what a vulnerable youth is, and then how do you work with them?
So previously they called it at-risk youth.
There
So
you go.
you think
Okay.
about maybe minorities or the impoverished, or they don't have opportunities that others may have.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have access. Their environment may be put them in a position to make poor decisions easier or quicker or accessible than another person who has things set up where they don't have same distractions.
Sure.
So call them vulnerable because they are essentially, they're waking up and there's all these things around them that are essentially setups or potential traps for them to not succeed or to make bad choices.
Yeah.
So
And part of that, I would think, would be peer pressure,
hmm
bullying, all kinds of
yeah,
different
peer
influences, right?
pressure, bullying, yeah, whether you have food to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, some kids don't even have food. They have clothes. They need certain things. They don't
Right.
have, effective parenting or supportive parenting. So now they're looking for that figure that to kind of like love them
Yeah.
and they don't really understand what love is, and they just need somebody with a presence there,
There you
consistency,
go. There you go.
regardless of what it looks like.
Wow, that's just, I got goosebumps on that, Mac, because the need is so deep and wide, and so hats off to you for touching those kids, because they're, the old cliche from 200 years ago, the kids are our future, and anybody that
Yeah.
can have a positive influence, touch them in some meaningful way all those things you mentioned, really, clothes and food and care,
Mhm.
that's all stuff that leads to self-esteem and confidence, and that's really what
Yeah.
kids are looking for, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I always talk about, how adults will go around and say that I'm hangry because I'm hungry and I'm
Right,
angry.
right, yeah.
Right. Imagine a kid who hasn't had breakfast going to school. They're upset. They're hungry. They're not able to learn, really digest things. They're quick to get angry. They're
Yeah.
quick to lash out.
Yep.
It's the same thing. We really just need to pay attention to them and give them an opportunity to
Absolutely.
succeed.
Absolutely. So how do you do that in such a way that maybe people who are listening might say, well, that sounds kind of interesting to me. I wonder how I could get involved and maybe touch a kid or two along the way. Is there ways that you recommend that people consider that?
Yeah, you can always volunteer. There's mentoring programs typically wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Maryland, I work with a company that does PRP work, which is a psychiatric rehabilitation program.
Okay.
And it's clinical mentoring. And it's an extension of therapy. So we come up with goals and stuff like that. If a kid is struggling at home, because I don't typically go into the home, so the mentor can kind of go in there and help them out with the communication between their siblings, their parents, help them with vocational things. It's just, even look to see what the Boys and Girls Club around.
Right.
Maybe
right.
donating. It's a myriad of things that people can do if they really want to
just tap
become
into
an
your
influence.
community and try to figure out some resources. And
yeah,
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your book, Dear Future Wife, A Man's Guide and a Woman's Reference to Healthy Relationships. How did this come about because of your study and your research and your counseling and all that kind of thing?
It came about with everything.
Yeah.
It started off years ago before I even got the degree. I just randomly wrote Dear Future Wife after a relationship didn't work out. So
Mm-hmm.
I wrote Dear Future Wife, where, I need this and I'm not perfect and stuff like that. And then after meeting with couples, after doing my own personal work, it turned into a workbook where, since that I'm able to connect and provide some guidance and some reference to healthy relationships through my words.
And through your experience too, right?
Yeah, definitely. Through experience, through research, through work, all of that good stuff. And it's not just a book of love letters. It's also a breakdown of what's written.
Yeah.
And then there's a workbook where you can have an opportunity to really work on yourself. Or you can even, couples use it. Other clinicians have purchased my book and use it in their practices to give it to couples.
How
so
cool.
It's a pretty effective tool, if what I've heard.
Wow. And do you use it in your, I guess sometimes in your clinician work if you're, well, here, have you read my book? No, you want to buy my book?
No, I can't do that.
I mean, I know you wouldn't do it that way, but it makes me wonder if people get that perception sometimes, because it strikes me as such an important book that, how would you share that with your with people you work with, or even do you?
Yeah, it depends. So if it's a certain maybe client or couple that's dealing with something specifically that's in my book, I might just, because I have it on, of course, in my notes and everything, I might just either cut and paste a particular part from it and share it with them.
Oh, there you go.
But I don't, hey, go get the book. Hey, I have a book. Like, you want to buy it? No,
yeah, exactly. That's a fine line, man. So,
right,
yeah,
definitely.
Good on you. That's a perfect way to do it. And so, where can people get your book? Obviously, at your website. Right, BasheaWilliams.com. Is that it? Yeah,
it's there. It's also there on Amazon.
Okay.
You can get it two ways through Amazon, of course, delivery, and you can get it through your Kindle. It's also on Barnes & Noble.
Nice.
You can get it through the physical form, or you can get it through the digital form, and Books A Million is one as well. If you want it signed by me, of course, my website, which is BasheaWilliams.com, and that's BASHEA Williams.com, and you go to the shop Bashea, and there's a myriad of things. There's some T-shirts, there's a book, so hats, sweaters,
and there's some really interesting, I'm assuming, blog posts on there. How's your driving, speaking, burn your cape so you can fly. Move forward. Why is he or she? I mean, there's a lot of really interesting information there that people can just go check out and maybe get an epiphany along the way and say, "Hey, I need to talk to this guy. We're kind of on the same page here."
Right. Yeah. Hopefully that happens. I appreciate that.
You bet. So you got such. I'm a voice actor by profession, so I will applaud your voice. You got great pipes. Do you consider doing an audiobook of this?
Well, yes, I am looking for a studio now to do the audiobook.
Okay.
Initially, I was going to hire someone, but everyone's like, "No, use your own voice," and I was like, "You're right. I'll just use my own voice."
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. So that's cool, man. Well, I'm thrilled with what you do and how you do it. I want to click on this one link that I missed before. I want to check it out. Move Forward Mondays. Tell me about that.
So for about 2 years on Instagram and Facebook, I used to do every Monday, because everybody always hated Mondays. Oh, Monday, I got to go to work. I got to do this. And but I kind of reframed what Monday looked like. So it's Move Forward Monday. So each Monday, it's a start of a new week. Instead of looking at it a negative way, let's start some new goals. Let's look at this week differently. What can I do different this week than last week? How can I improve? How can I just feel better about the day? How can I just jumpstart my week? So it's just all different types of messages that I use on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Bashea Williams is connected everywhere you need to be, so whatever type of social media you are on, you can find him. It's BASHEA, BasheaWilliams.com. And, of course, he's on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn, Pinterest, you name it. Fascinating stuff. I mean, if nothing else, folks, go to BasheaWilliams.com and just bookmark Move Forward Mondays and use that as a leaping off point for your week, because it's like getting up in the morning and having a great breakfast to have a great day. You got to have a great Monday to have a great week, right?
Right. That's great. Yeah.
All right,
I agree, guys.
Hey, really a pleasure. Thank you so much for what you do and how you do it. You got some special gifts there. It's nice that you're going to. I know everybody's going to ask, but is he married?
No, I'm not married. No.
But you knew that was coming, right?
Yeah, of course. That is a goal. Yeah,
attaboy. But you got to do it the right way and the right time with the right person. So cool. Bashea Williams, thank you, buddy. Have a great one.
No problem. Thank you. You too.
Listen to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower on the go. Downloads are available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, any podcast app, and on our website at davidbrowervo.com/your20-minute podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening.